Hey, welcome back to COVID Cooking. As promised, beverages. Came up with this sort of at the beginning, and so out of respect for COVID-19, we're calling this a COVID-19. Vodka, soda water, a splash of cranberry. We get cranberry with no sugar added, and a little orange juice. It's delightful. Like a lot of people, I look to do low carb meals. I'm a type 2 diabetic, so for me, it's an issue. My body just doesn't handle carbs well at all. So I've been fooling around with stuff over time. This is a recipe I came up with. Actually, this recipe came out in like 95 or something like that for when we created it. But it works out really well right now. Substituting zucchini and yellow squash in ribbons for pasta. So what it is, shrimp and scallops with cream sauce. I'm putting a little tomato in it, and we're going to serve it on what amounts to this as pasta. Okay? The shrimp, little peccadillo of mine, there are no tails on the shrimp. Pet peeve. Unless I'm expected to handle the shrimp with my hands, it shouldn't have a tail on it. It shouldn't have shell of any kind. So these are all ready to go. Okay, I've got the pan ready to go. This is a mandoline. This is the expensive French kind of mandoline that I've had forever. Unless you want to spend $150, there are lesser expensive mandolins that are in the $30, $40 range. They're plastic. You can get them at most Asian markets, and they work just fine. So there's lots of settings on this. You can do julienne, whatever. But for this, we're just doing a very simple thin slice like that. Now, if you can do that with a knife, that's great. No, I'd rather not. Now, notice I'm only doing like 2 or 3 slices, the part that has the skin. Bottom line, this part of squash doesn't have a whole lot of flavor. So, that's going on. So, a couple slices here. And the yellow squash the same way. Now, not all this is going to come out perfect, and that's okay too. And this is for 2 people. So, I've got about, I want to say, half, 3/4 of a pound of shrimp and the same of scallops. One of the good things about this recipe is it's all in one pan. So, less to clean up. Okay. So, shallot, which is a kind of onion, a very mild onion, very, very prevalent in French cooking. So, it just adds a little bit of pizzazz to whatever you're doing if you don't want to have a heavy onion flavor, but you still want to get a little bit of a bite in there, especially with something like this, it's going to be a cream sauce. So we're going to mince this. Going back to knife skills, which was a couple of videos ago, this knife, notice my fingers are like this, okay? So as long as my fingertips don't stick out, I keep the knife up against here, and as long as I don't stick my fingers out and I don't raise the knife up above my fingers, I can't cut my fingers. Knife skills 101. Same thing with garlic. If the pan's too hot, it'll burn. If you're gonna make marinara sauce, which is another video we're gonna do pretty soon, actually put the olive oil and the onion and the garlic in the pan while it's cold, and then turn the heat on. That way, you don't brown or burn the onion and the garlic. We want the shallot to be translucent, not brown, not caramelized, translucent. Because if the onion isn't cooked enough, the shallot, it'll be too strong, it'll be bitter. All right. So now the seafood goes in. You can use whatever kind of seafood you want in this. If you want to put some clams, mussels, lobster, whatever you want to do. I'm not going to cook these very much because both shrimp and scallops cook very, very fast, and you don't want to overcook them. So, a little white wine. And a little heavy whipping cream. Now, this is a microplane. This is lemon, washed, of course, rinsed off. And now I'm just going to put some zest into this. The zest of the lemon has all the oil in it, so it has all the lemon flavor, but it doesn't have any of the juice. So you get a completely different flavor profile from the zest than you do the juice. We're going to use both in this case, but not always. Like for cooking, a lot of times you want to use lemon zest because it has that great lemon tinge to it. Okay, I just went and picked some chives and parsley. Chives being a relative of a kind of onion, so it's going to give us that same onion bite flavor, but not nearly as strong as a regular onion. And parsley to give it a real fresh kick at the end. Now, fresh herbs put in at the end, at the very end. If you want to cook with dried herbs, that's fine. But dried herbs go in, like if I wanted to use dried herbs on this dish, I would put them in right now and let them cook as long as possible because they have to rehydrate and they have to come back to life. Fresh herbs like this, you put in at the very end because they give it a nice bright edge at the end. So you would really never put in fresh herbs at the beginning of a recipe, and you never put in dried herbs at the end of a recipe because that's going to be really, really bitter. so these have been cooking for a minute or two. The shrimp are done. The scallops are mostly done. So now I'm going to take them out so they don't overcook. And here comes the squash. I'm really not trying to cook this, I'm just trying to blanch it. If you cook it too much, obviously it'll fall apart. You want it to be flexible. So it can behave like pasta. A little salt. This does not take very long, a couple minutes. All right. I think we're seafood goes back in. Chives and parsley. Salt. Pepper. And we're good to go. And there you have it. Low carb, seafood, zucchini, yellow squash, easy to make, and it doesn't take a long time. Thanks a lot, enjoy, we'll catch you next time.